Welcome back to another exciting episode on the show. And yeah, you guys know I only bring the best of guests to my show. And once again, today we have a very wonderful guest. Today's guest is John Bond, an author, publishing consultant, and lifelong champion of books and ideas. With more than 35 years immersed in writing and publishing, John helps aspiring authors navigate the journey from blank page to published book. His latest novel, To the End of Reckoning, is a high concept speculative thriller that explores a fascinating question: what happens when history stops being debatable? Published by Histria and distributed by Simon and Schuster, the novel combines suspense, big ideas, and thought-provoking storytelling. John, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm very pleased to be here and looking forward to a great discussion and connecting with your listeners.
All right, so thank you so much for coming, John. So here at the show, we explore books, talk about books, try to uncover the hidden gems people are embedded in books. So tell us about your new novel, John, To the End of Reckoning.
Yes, well, as you said, it's a speculative thriller. I like to explain speculative fiction to people that may not be familiar with the genre as based around the concept of what if. So for older listeners, I use The Twilight Zone as an example from TV, and for younger listeners, I use Black Mirror as an example. Both shows each episode centers around an individual concept, and it's a what if concept. So my novel, as you said, is a thriller, and it centers around the idea: what if a group of people came across a, a group of films in a barn in upstate New York accidentally, and the films were films of every historical event in the history of mankind. And the government gathers experts together, and they determine they're not CGI or computer generated imagery, not AI, not artificial intelligence, and they're not reenactments. So that leaves this group and the world with the thorny question: how could these films have been made? Who would have made them? And how did they get left in this obscure place? So it really becomes, in the beginning part of the book, a bit of a whodunit, or the thriller as to trying to get to the answers to that question. And as the answers partially start to emerge, that's when the secret gets out and the world gets involved with trying to understand these films about every historical event in the history of mankind.
Thank you so much, John. What are the central themes you explore in the book?
Well, the central theme is really about the concept of truth. As a society, we have to hold certain facts or truths in common. Up is up, down is down, gravity works. And so where is the line between those things that we individually believe and where, as a society, that we all or mostly all believe? So if we were shown a film of something in history and it slightly or completely contradicted the notions of what happened at that historical event, would we as a society accept that in actual proof with the imagery? Or would we then be split, as we are in so many places in the world today, between two interpretations or multiple interpretations over what we're actually seeing? So it starts out really as an examination of truth, and it ends up being much more than that as the novel progresses.
All right, John, thank you so much. So what draws you to speculative fiction and science fiction as a writer?
I was always intrigued with the old school science fiction from the 60s and 70s, and even before that. A lot of it centered on the world we live in and how to make it a better place. If you take an example most people know is, even if you've never seen episodes, is the original Star Trek series. It was during the 60s, a tumultuous time in the United States and throughout the world, where the United States was coming to terms with its preconceived ideas of who had a place at the table and who did not. And each of those episodes, or I should say many of those episodes, addressed the ills of society as they saw it, and perhaps a better or future interpretation of how society might be different. And most of science fiction is really holding a mirror up to some part of science of the world we live in. And that's partly what Black Mirror does. Black Mirror, the TV show, if you're familiar with it, holds a mirror up to a dystopian future that is digitally focused. And I think we can all relate to that when we look at how attached we are to our phones and to social media and to the internet.
Okay, so how long did it take you to write the novel from concept to publication?
The concept came to me pretty quickly as I started to see the debates in 2019 and 2020 as to what is truth and what is not in the United States. Once I had that, I like to plot out on a few pieces of paper what's going to happen in the novel, but I'm always up for revisions, and actually things did change after that plotting. And it took me only about 6 months to write it, and from there I showed it to some close friends that are writers, some are readers, and some are just family and friends, to get their feedback on it. And what I've learned as a publishing consultant is that you have to be able to weigh all of that advice and internalize some, but put some aside. Sometimes people had a vision of what the book might be, and I said, "Oh, well, that's valuable. Maybe I'll make some changes based on that." But other times they had suggestions, and I said, "That's not my vision of the book. And while it's valuable that you provide that to me, I am not going to. I'm going to set that aside." So after the 6 months of writing, I had that feedback from others and revisions, and I had a manuscript getting ready to send out for consideration with many publishers, and I was happy that To the End of Reckoning found a home with History of Publishing and distribution by Simon & Schuster, so I was very pleased.
Okay, so talking about the idea for this story, where did it first come to you?
I saw some of the divisions that are going on in the United States. We would look whatever side of the aisle, as it's said in the United States, whatever side of the aisle is on, we would look at the exact same thing, and people would come up with different interpretations. So I said to myself, what if we actually had a film of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, or the Battle of Waterloo, or the building of the Great Wall of China, or the birth or death of the Buddha? Could we accept and have the same interpretation? And I started to despair at that time that we couldn't, but I feel much better now and feel like, depending on what the event is, that we could start to come to some understanding of what it is and what it means to society.
Okay, so moving on, what continues to inspire you to write after so many years?
Well, I have 7 nonfiction books that I've published. Most of them are about publishing and writing, and that's based on my long career in publishing and my work as a publishing consultant. They've been easy and fun to write because, to be honest, I'm repeating or giving facts that I'm well versed in and know a lot about. Creative writing has always been something I've been interested in. I'm a big reader. I log all my books at a website called Goodreads.com. If any of your listeners are Goodreads users, I invite you to connect with me there. So I've read widely, both in fiction, nonfiction, biography, and other areas. And there's always some nugget or piece of information that comes out of it that sort of sparks that creative itch. Sometimes it's a splinter and it's tough for me to get it out, and I rub at it and rub at it. And that splinter sometimes becomes an idea that I want to write about. And then it turns into something, and it may turn into nothing, but it may turn into to the end of reckoning.
Okay, so for someone dreaming of writing a book, what is the best way to get started?
The most important thing is to actually write, and to write as much as your mind and mostly your schedule will allow. If you ascend to be the best player in basketball, like LeBron James, or the best tennis player and win Wimbledon, or and on and on and on in every sport. And the World Cup's going on right now, so maybe I should use Messi as an example for those that are great in football. They've only done that based on years and years and years of practice, successes, and failures. So the first thing to do is not to be intimidated by writing at all. It's an open range that you're able to roam and do anything you want. If you want to write short, long, medium, essays, poetry, short stories, novels, novellas, you're free to do whatever you want. There are literally no rules. And you could say there are rules based on grammar, style, and punctuation. But as we all know, there's been a lot of successful novels where they've been jettisoned. So start by giving yourself permission to do whatever you want and be whoever you are. But the next step is for you to do it a lot. Try to shoot for writing 500 words a day, which is about 2 pages in Microsoft Word, depending on how you space it. Maybe 1,000 words a day. It doesn't have to be Nobel Prize in Literature worthy, but all this work is just practice on your part. Practice, practice, practice. And the second part is, as you start to write, know that there's a day in the future when you're going to need to share it with others. People become very shy about that when they're first starting their writing journey, but you're going to have to find friends, like-minded travelers or individuals or writers or readers, and you're going to have to trust that you're going to give it to them and they're going to give you feedback. You may feel vulnerable and you may feel like a fear of rejection, but it is really important at the beginning of the journey, you be who you are, write whatever you want, but sometime in the future, you're going to want to find those people to share with, and you lay the groundwork for what the rules are of what they're going to give you feedback on or how they're going to view it. But it'll be very valuable to get that feedback, whether you embrace all of it or none of it or some of it.
Okay, John, thank you so much. So, how does an author go about finding a literary agent?
Well, first, let's go through through some steps. First of all, let's separate nonfiction from fiction, and let's also separate the different types of publishing. Self-publishing, very popular right now. You can do it through some very legitimate services such as Kindle Direct and Ingram Spark, but you have to be prepared to do all the marketing, all the publicity, and all the promotion. Hybrid publishing is halfway between traditional and self-publishing. In other words, you pay some amount and they do some marketing and distribution for you, but you get paid a higher royalty. And finally, there's traditional publishing. Traditional publishing, let's think of Random House or Simon & Schuster or Little Brown, and they are all publishers where they take all the risk, pay all the bills, and then just pay you a royalty based off each sale. So if you're looking to get published in nonfiction, a lot of authors only have to write a sample chapter or two and then write a book proposal. And you can use that instead of writing the entire book, and then approach either small or medium-sized or independent publishers directly, or you may wish to find an agent. Now, in fiction, it's something different. I would suggest for first-time authors or newish authors is that if they're going to pitch a novel to an agent or to
Okay.
a publisher,
What
they
should
have it
writers know about finding the right
100% written,
publisher?
100% edited by somebody you feel knows the language, and have gotten feedback from many people and made some changes based on that. You're going to want to be your best for game day with that novel. And so then you're going to consider, do I want to go direct to small or medium-sized publishers or independent publishers, which you could with a novel. You do that with a query letter, which is one page that basically summarizes your work, the novel, you, and what you're going to do for the novel, and asks them if they want to see more. And then for those that want to find an agent, there's a couple great websites that are lists of agents, and there is a monthly fee you have to pay. You could subscribe for 1 month and then drop it. It's a relatively small fee, and that's where legitimate agents are listed. And you would send them a query letter, maybe with a sample of the first 5 or 10 pages, and see if they have interest. An important thing to note for all the listeners is if agents ask you to pay a fee, that automatically means they're not an agent. Agents make money off of the sales of each book, just as you do with royalty. Agents should never charge you a fee to read it or to evaluate it or to analyze the market or whatever. The people that are doing that, they're just making money off of you. They're not making money off of sales. So just beware of people that purport to be agents but are actually not.
All right, thank you so much for that. So tell us, how should writers know about finding the right publisher for their work?
How to find the right publisher?
Yes, John.
This is a very key point that you brought up, a very astute question. A lot of people that are writers, especially new ones, get discouraged with rejection. And so I use this analogy. Let's say, use a TV analogy. Let's say you and I wanted to start a cooking show, and we were going to talk about recipes and cooking. We write it up as a proposal, and we send it to a sports network that just broadcasts sports, let's say ESPN or something like that. And they write back and they say, this is not for us. We may feel rejected because they didn't like our idea, but the problem is that we chose the wrong group to send it to. We should have sent it to a cooking channel, not to a sports network. And that analogy holds true for finding publishers. You have to know what the publishers are currently, not in the past, publishing. And the best way to do that is to do a lot of deep investigations on websites such as Amazon, Barnes & Noble. So if you go into a bookstore and see a book that's very similar to the genre or the type that you would like to publish, note that publisher and then go to their website and look at books that are to be released and see if they are publishing books that are complementary to what you want to publish in. That's the best way for you to know you're sending to the right network, such as a cooking show, as opposed to sending to a wrong publisher, such as a sports show. And so you're going to want to do tremendous research. There's lots of lists out there on the internet, but many times they're dated. So you'll always have to do current day research to see what they're publishing and to make sure you're a good fit for them.
Okay, so should authors pursue traditional publishing or self-publishing? And how do they decide which path is right for them?
Yeah, another great question. Self-publishing, as I mentioned, is extremely focused on you being able to promote and market your book. That you could pay the fee, and they say they list it on Amazon or a book service like or a retailer like that. But remember, they're listing it, and it doesn't mean it's listed for next day delivery, which is what a lot of people decide if they're going to order a book. So sometimes it'll be like arrives in 2 weeks. So in regard to self-publishing, you're going to have to want to get out here and be on podcasts such as Hidden Secrets. You're going to want to have to talk at groups such as local libraries and bookstores. You're going to have to be on a wide range of social media, and you're going to have to feel comfortable with publicizing yourself and talking about yourself. It takes people a while to get over it, but listen, I'm an expert in publishing, and I have to embrace that and not feel that I'm bragging. I have to feel that I'm sharing my experience with people that value this knowledge. So self-publishing, the major question to ask is, do you have a way and are you comfortable with promoting and marketing and distributing and publicizing your work? Traditional publishing, on the other hand, they still want you to do that, but they're going to shoulder some of that responsibility. If you can get a traditional publisher, which is a big if, I suggest most people go that way. But I also understand people are very fearful of it because the potential rejection that may come with it. So from that point of view, you're really going to want to think if traditional publishing is right for you. And if it is, are you willing to live through some rejection? And are you willing to still do that marketing, promotion, and public publicity that self-publishing requires? So it's a question that you have to examine, and it's not as much about your idea or the work, but it's more about whether you are interested in being a partner with the publicity for the book. I also welcome anybody to reach out to me. I'm at riverwindsconsulting.com, where Riverwinds with an S. And if you have questions, you can reach out to me and connect with me there about your publishing or marketing and distribution questions.
Here is my final question for you. If you could leave listeners with one thing from one message from this whole conversation, probably potential authors and out there those who are planning to write or to begin their writing journey, what would that message be?
Great question. Give yourself permission to be a writer and to use your creative energy. Don't feel judged by anybody. Starts out as a solitary journey. You have a blank piece of paper or a blank computer screen. Express yourself in any way, in any topic that you want, and continue to do that day after day. A mile of a thousand miles. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and that's true with writing as well. If you want to get started, simply write and do it every day for a little bit. Each of those days you're improving and you don't even realize it. And in the future, you can have something, whether it's of your own or a published work, that you can be proud of. So give yourself permission, unleash your creativity, and write a little bit every day.
All right, John, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your insights on storytelling, publishing, and the creative process. Whether someone is an avid reader, an aspiring author, or simply loves exploring big ideas, the journey is an inspiration. So, John, for those who would like to learn more about you, your books, including The End of Reckoning, how can they check out your work and get your books?
Well, thank you. To the End of Reckoning is due out August 2026. It's available to be back ordered. It's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and bookshop.org, and in all bookstores you can order it. I can be reached at booksbyjohnbond.com or at riverwindsconsulting.com. And there's places to reach out to me in both places. And it's been a real joy to connect with your listeners here and to be a guest on Hidden Secrets today. Bravo.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate you coming. I also want to thank all my listeners for taking out their time to be here today. All right, have a wonderful day, John.
Thank you. You as well.